Welcome everyone to today's webinar on how Main Street retailers can compete successfully in the digital age. And thank you all for taking time to join us. Just a couple quick notes before we go ahead and get started here. Everybody is on mute, so if you have any issues, please feel free to use that chat function there, the chat box, and just chat those in, and we'll try to get this resolved. We will be recording this webinar, so it should be posted up on our website probably by early next week, so be on the lookout for that. And finally, if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to type those into the question box. We will be answering all questions at the end, but again, feel free to type those in as you go. So with that, I'd like to introduce Carolyn Brady. Carolyn works for Pointy, a startup that helps local brick and mortar retailers be found online. Pointy makes it incredibly easy to display a store's product online in a way that is optimized for local search. Her main roles within the company are product integration and marketing. She manages a team of remote workers who ensure that every single product on Pointy contains high quality and accurate data. Through this role, she has gained extensive knowledge of product trends and the most effective ways for shops to display their products online and get higher search rankings. She works closely with Pointy retailers, providing them with educational content and advice through social media, blog posts, newsletters, and webinars. She's also represented Pointy in a number of trade shows and conferences across the U.S. You also may have seen the blog post that she wrote in our newsletter last week, and they also are an allied member of the National Main Street Center, so would encourage you to check out their listing in the Allied Services Directory after the webinar. So with that, I'd like to welcome Carolyn and turn it over to her.
Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you for that lovely introduction. So I think we'll just go ahead and get started here. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you all today and just hopefully providing a little bit of more education about how Main Street retailers can compete in the digital age. So just to start off with, for today's webinar, we'll be talking about the current retail landscape and the changes in consumer behavior and how Main Street stores can actually leverage these new search trends to their advantage. So to start off, I just wanted to talk a little bit about current retail realities. So when we read the news these days, it really doesn't look very promising for Main Street stores. So we're seeing a lot of really depressing headlines, to be honest, just about store closures, about the retail apocalypse, and about the rise of e-commerce. And it is true that e-commerce is growing, and yes, some stores are closing, but the reality of it is that 93% of commerce still happens in store, with only 7% of it being online. So there's still a huge amount happening in traditional brick and mortar Main Street stores. And really, of that 7% that's happening online, Amazon is the dominant player here, along with the big box retailers like the likes of Best Buy and Walmart. So the rest only make up a tiny 1% of the market. So that's really, really crucial to understand that as well. If you're a small brick and mortar retailer who has an e-commerce site, you're essentially a very small fish in a very big pond. Another thing to note, and another current retail reality to take on board, is that online influence sales are actually 5 times bigger than e-commerce. So what do I mean by an online influence sale? This is when a customer goes onto a search engine like Google and they type the name of a product that they're looking for into the search box, and they do all of their research online, or potentially they might have come across a product through Facebook, through an ad on Facebook, but they actually purchase that product in the physical store. So you're probably wondering, if 93% of commerce is still happening in store and online influence sales are 5 times bigger than e-commerce, then really why is it that brick and mortar or Main Street stores are struggling so much against online? And one reason that we think that this is happening is because of the path to purchase. So the online path to purchase versus the in-store path to purchase. And when you look at the two side by side, it's really clear that they are entirely different experiences for the customer. So on one hand, you have e-commerce. This is a really, really certain journey for the customer. It's so simple for them. They type the name of the product that they're looking for into the search engine like Google. They find the product that they're looking for and they complete the purchase in just a few clicks. So everything is very certain. They know that the product is in stock. They know when the delivery date is. there's no kind of questions left for them to ask at the end. Then in comparison, when you look at the in-store path to purchase, it's a lot more complicated for the customer, and there are so many uncertainties surrounding it. So to begin with, they might not even be able to find really basic information about the store, like their opening hours and contact details. So that's kind of the first barrier for many customers. If they can't even find opening hours or contact details, really, how can we expect them to ever make it to the store? And even if they do get past that, they're faced with other uncertainties, like whether or not the product is actually in stock and how long it will take them to complete the purchase. So a lot of uncertainties in comparison with e-commerce. So just to reiterate on that, it's quite clear that from these two paths, why customers are increasingly choosing to buy online rather than in-store. So with online, there are virtually no barriers to purchase. The customers can easily find product info, they know if it's in stock, and they know when it will be delivered. And then in comparison with that, with in-store, there are many barriers to purchase. And even customers with the best will in the world may often feel like it's simply too difficult for them to buy a product that even if they're looking for it in-store, it might just be too difficult to make that path to purchase in-store. So the path to purchase is one thing that I think is having a really significant impact on brick and mortar's ability to compete. Another really huge contributing factor is the change in search behavior. And I mentioned that stat earlier, that online influence sales are now 5 times bigger than e-commerce. So customers are turning to search engines like Google more and more when they're looking for a product or a service. And I think this image here really sums up the reason that we're seeing such a huge increase in these online influence sales. And that's the smartphone. We're glued to them 24/7. You do it, I do it. We're checking it first thing in the morning, on our commute to work, and we've become so accustomed to getting these immediate answers to all of our search queries. We're not willing to wait for anything. We want answers now. And this pattern has led to a really huge surge in the number of near me searches that are happening. So what do I mean by a near me search? So for example, you're going to a party straight after work and you need to pick up some craft beers along the way. So what do you generally do in this situation? You take out your smartphone and you do a Google search for something like Brewdog IPA near me. That's an example, a perfect example of a near me search. And these have actually grown so massively that they've exceeded the level of searches for weather on Google. So it's absolutely phenomenal, the number of searches. And you can see it from the graph here. They've actually caught up with weather on Google now, and people are doing these searches just as much as weather. So they're really, really massive, and it's a huge, huge change in search behavior at the moment. Another change that's happening is the way in which people are searching. So they're no longer searching for these generic terms like, for argument's sake, where can I find a pet store? They're searching for really specific products, and they have a much clearer intent when it comes to purchasing. So they're searching for things like, where can I find a Kong dog toy in San Jose? It's much, much clearer intent. They want to find a really specific answer. And it's because there's so much information available out there now that they can do so much research online, and really brick and mortar retailers need to be providing these answers if they're to compete with the e-commerce giants. And we actually did a little bit of research into this ourselves using Google Trends. So we use Google Trends to track the number of searches for a generic term like toy store versus a more specific search like Jenga over a period of 90 days. And the results were really interesting. So you can see from this graph here, when you're searching for a generic term like toy store against a specific product like Jenga, you can see that the searches for toy store are far greater. So the black line is for toy store and the green is for Jenga. So in that case, toy store far outweighs the search for Jenga. But then when we added in 10 products, you can see that the searches for specific products far outweigh searches for toy store. So again here, the black line represents toy store, and all of these other colors are representing specific product searches, like where can I find Shopkins, where can I find a Barbie doll, where can I find a Nerf blaster. So much more specific product searches that people are doing. And finally, when you look at 100 products, when we compared it with 100 really specific products, toy stores are trailing far behind in terms of the search volume in comparison. So it just goes to show the difference in the search behavior of customers these days, that they're not doing these generic searches anymore. They're searching for very specific terms, and they have very, very clear intent. So what do all of these new consumer search trends really mean for brick and mortar stores? And why should retailers care about them? Well, Google recently did a study that found that 50% of customers who did a local search for a product visited the store within a day. And of those 18% actually led to a purchase. And it's stats like these that really show that customers are doing local searches and have very high intent. So it's really important for brick and mortar stores to be found in these searches. So what can Main Street retailers really do to leverage the new search trends in a way that gets more customers into their brick and mortar store? And we think one of the key steps here is that they increase their online presence and make sure that they're actually being found in local searches. And there's obviously a number of different ways that retailers can do this, but I really suggest going back to basics first. So this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the in-store path to purchase. Brick and mortar retailers want to make it as easy as possible for someone to find their store. So the first point there, store contact information clearly visible. That might sound really, really simple to you, but the first thing we recommend is just making sure that you review all of your information and make sure that it's consistent throughout all of your channels. So on your Facebook, on your website. Honestly, you wouldn't believe the number of stores, even the bigger chains, who have inconsistent opening hours throughout all of their different channels. I actually had a situation like this myself a couple of weeks ago, where I wanted to, basically we started this thing in work where we do a treat day every Friday, and somebody has to bring something in and they have to make it themselves, and it's for everyone in the office here at Pointy to enjoy. Of course, it was my turn to do it, and the night before I completely forgot about it. And it's 10 p.m. on a Thursday evening, and I'm wondering what store is open that I can go and either buy some ingredients or buy something that looks in some way homemade. So what I ended up doing was searching for whether or not my local Tesco was open. So Tesco for us here in Ireland, where I'm based, is basically like a Walmart. And even for this massive, massive retailer, it was so difficult to find the correct opening hours because they had lots of different ones listed on different websites. And eventually I did get there, and I just took a chance, and luckily the store was open. But you know, this is a really, really simple step for retailers to take to ensure that their opening hours and their contact details are correct. And it's something that many people actually get wrong. So something to really be mindful of for brick and mortar stores is to start with the basics and get them right. And on that note, another thing to ensure that it's correct is your PIN on Google Maps. So nowadays, 1/3 of all searches are location-based. So this one is really, really important. People are doing more and more of these location-based searches. So if your PIN isn't correct on Google Maps, then it's going to be really difficult for somebody to find your store. And one of the easiest ways that I think to manage your Google Maps listing is by setting up a Google My Business account for your brick and mortar store. And it's a really great tool to use. It's completely free, and it means that all of your store information, including your location, will be listed when someone searches for your store name on Google. So it'll be that really nice little box that you see in the right-hand corner when somebody searches for your store name. It's got all of your contact details, all of your opening hours, and a full listing of your store. And it just makes it really, really easy for somebody to find your store whenever they look for it. You don't want to create any barriers for them, so make it as simple as possible. And I'd also suggest that retailers add in extra directions on their social media pages or on their website to ensure that people who aren't really that familiar with something like Google Maps, that they can still find your store. So something as easy as it's 2 blocks from X opposite Starbucks could be really, really helpful for someone who's not that familiar with something like Google Maps. And now having all of your contact information online is great, but it's really irrelevant if you're not showing up in any searches. So you really need to make sure that you're showing up in searches, and for this, linking is very important. So what I mean by linking is adding a link from your website to your social media pages and vice versa. So for search engines like Google, a link is kind of treated like a vote. So the more votes that you have, the higher you'll rank in search results. So really, by having this kind of unified presence, unified online presence, stores are basically indicating that all of their pages are linked together, and it helps them to rank higher because it kind of sends that message to Google that yes, this social media page is linked to this website and to this Yelp account, and it's creating that unified presence and helping you to rank higher then in search results. Another thing to just mention is having your contact details on every page of your website is so, so important. You know, retailers don't know where a customer will land on their page when they visit their website. So, you know, they could have come in through a specific product that they found, or through through a contact detail, or through their Facebook page. You want to make sure no matter where they land on the page that it'll be really easy for them to find any of the info that they need to visit that store. So the contact details, I suggest having your contact details, you know, your opening hours, directions to the store should all be in one place, one static place of your website that shows up no matter where that customer clicks on the website, that will always be there and be really, really easy to find. I cannot tell you the amount of time I've spent rummaging through retailers' websites trying to find the opening hours or the contact details, because they're just buried somewhere within there and they're very difficult to find. You don't want to create that barrier. Brick and mortar stores want to make it really, really easy to get somebody into their store. And finally, publishing unique kind of content and relevant content on your website or on a store's website or blog really helps stores to rank higher in search results. And I know that that's a really big ask for retailers because they're such busy people. And I mean, even here at Pointy, I do blog posts myself, and it's very difficult to keep up to date with them. It takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment, but even committing to one post every 2 weeks makes such a massive difference. And just to say on that point, these are all things that we do here at Pointy ourselves. These are all things that we put into practice. We've used blog posts to help to increase our visibility online. We make sure that our contact details are really easy to find. So it goes for every business, and not just for retailers. And there are things that you can put into play in every single business. And so the last thing, obviously these are all, you know, really good things that you can do and great exercises that you can put into play to improve your online presence and your ranking on Google as well. But there's one additional thing that makes a huge difference, and that is displaying your products online. So I talked earlier about the change in consumer search behavior. And it's pretty clear from the research that we did on Google Trends, as well as the research that Google have done themselves, that consumers are moving away from searching for generic terms, and they're searching for more specific products instead. And they're also searching locally, and that really goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the near me searches too. So brick and mortar retailers really need to make sure that their products are showing up in these local searches and that they're being found. And the only way that you can really do this effectively is by displaying the products that you stock online. So I'll just show you an example of how this is done here. my slides wouldn't mind working for me. There we go. Sorry about that. So by having your products online, Main Street retailers really improve their path to purchase and make it very, very easy for a customer to find their store and to see what they have in stock. So here's some examples of how retailers have done this, where all their products are displayed here on one part of the website, and on the other side you can see the name of the store, the contact details, the opening hours, and everything that a customer would need to actually visit that store. And also by displaying their products online, it means that Main Street retailers are more likely to rank highly when someone does a local Google search for a product that they stock. And again, this goes back to what I spoke about earlier, that people are doing these near me, highly local, location-based searches. As I said, 1/3 of all searches are location-based now. So retailers, especially Main Street retailers and local retailers, really do have a massive advantage over e-commerce giants, and that people are doing more and more of these near me searches. They want answers to near me search queries, but unless a retailer is actually displaying their products online in a way that allows them to rank highly in these searches, they're basically being lost to e-commerce giants like Amazon. And really, by displaying your products online, it means that there's a clear in-store path to purchase for the customer. So this goes back to what we talked about earlier, about the in-store versus the online path to purchase. So what you see when a customer or when a retailer displays their products online, the two paths side by side are all almost identical now, except that in one case the customer has to purchase online and wait for delivery, and in the other the customer can go directly to the store that day and purchase the product that they were looking for. So just to go through the process, the customer simply types the name of the product they're looking for into the search box. The information is available and they can see where they can find it locally. So they now have that local option. They don't have to buy it from an e-commerce giant because they know where it's available locally, because that information has been made available by the retailer. And these barriers that we talked about earlier are eliminated, so customers can easily get directions to the store. They know who has it in stock, and they know how long it's going to take for them to get that product as well. And finally, they simply visit the store to buy it rather than having to wait for that delivery or wait for that shipping. They can do it within the day. And I think that we all know from our own experience that people are becoming more and more impatient now, and they want answers to all of their queries instantly. So if I'm doing a local search for a product, the likelihood of it is that I want that product within the day. I don't want to have to wait for shipping. I want to get it right here, right now. And local retailers can really provide that answer, but only if they are displaying their products online and they're showing up in local search results. So by displaying their products, they're making it really easy for customers to find their products in local search results, and they're also leveraging all those competitive advantages that they have over online giants. So by having their products online, Main Street retailers become much more convenient for customers. So they become the more convenient option to a customer as opposed to e-commerce. And this whole idea of emphasizing the fact that local retailers are the more convenient option is really why we started Pointy. So our co-founder Mark, this is just a little story. Our co-founder Mark was at a party one night and he had this craft beer that he really liked, and the next day he tried it and he tried to find it, but he had no idea where might stock that product locally. So for him it just seemed really insane that you could search the entire internet in half a second, but you had no idea where you could find something in your local store. And that's really why he set up Pointy, was to help retailers to get their products online in a really quick and easy way, and to help them to become the more convenient option for customers as well. And so along with this, you also, by displaying your products online, you become a much more convenient option in terms of proximity. So by optimizing your products to rank highly in local searches, Main Street retailers are really highlighting the fact that they're much easier to get to than an e-commerce retailer. So they show up in these local searches, customers know where they can buy the product on the day, and they don't have to wait for that delivery either. They can get the directions, they can get the contact details, and they can visit the store within a day. And finally, by displaying your products online in a way that gets more customers into your brick and mortar store, it can highlight that in-store experience that a brick and mortar retailer provides over an e-commerce giant. And I think we can all agree that's just something that e-commerce retailers cannot mirror in the same way. So once a customer gets into the store, the brick and mortar store, the main street retailer, has the opportunity to offer them those other products and those other services. And they have a chance to create what I like to call a customer for life. And they can get that really important feedback from their customer and get more people through their door. And so that's pretty much everything from me on how brick and mortar retailers can compete and how main street retailers can compete. So obviously, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A box. And alternatively, you can email me directly on caroline@pointy.com if you have any other questions for me. So I think that's everything from me, Steve. If there are any questions there, please fire them on to me.
Fantastic, thank you, Caroline. And as I mentioned before, there's a question pane, so feel free if folks have any questions. We can start start answering those as they come in.
Great stuff.
Let's. Do you have suggestions on the best website plugins or the best format to showing products?
So obviously I'm a little bit biased here because I'm going to say Pointy. So basically what we do here at Pointy is we help retailers to get their products online and display them online in a really quick and easy way. So we have a little device, it's called a Pointy box, and it plugs in between a retailer's barcode scanner and their point of sale. And every time that they scan a product, it automatically goes onto what's called a Pointy page. And a Pointy page is basically like a website for their business. It lists all of their opening hours and their contact details and everything that a person would need to visit that store. And so once we get all those products on there, and we make it really easy for the customer or for the retailer to rank highly in a local Google search. So we optimize every single product on your Pointy page to rank highly in local Google searches. So that means that when a customer is searching for a product that you stock locally on Google, that you should rank highly in that search result. So obviously there's a lot of different things, different websites and plugins that you can use to get your products online, but Pointy is a really, really simple solution, I think, especially for busy brick and mortar retailers who don't have a lot of time and don't have the effort or the time to really put into manually uploading all their products. With us, it's simply a case of plugging in the device and we do all the work for you after that. So you don't need to put in any of the details yourself about that product. We source everything for you.
Great, and we had a question on how much it costs.
Sure, so the Pointy device is $299, and that's a one-time payment. So there's no monthly subscription with Pointy. It's just a one-time fee, and you pay that at once off, and after that, you have Pointy forever. So obviously we offer other services on top of that you can pay for on a monthly basis, but they're in no way obligatory. They're optional services, so you can choose to use them or not use them. But for the basic Pointy service, so for the Pointy device, all of your products continuously updated online, and the optimization through search engines like Google, that's all included within the $299 one-time payment.
Great. If you repeat the name of the product repeatedly on your site, does that help it get higher on the search?
So it really depends. Google works in mysterious ways, to say the least. Sometimes they catch on to that, so I'm assuming they're kind of referring here to things like keywords. it really depends. Sometimes Google catches on to that, and it will actually have a bad impact on your visibility or your ranking on search engines like Google. So it kind of depends. Like, say for argument's sake, in blog posts, some people might do this, that they'll use a specific term throughout that post in the hope that it will help them to rank highly then when somebody searches for that term, that their blog post will show up in that. But it's not necessarily always the case, and Google are kind of, and other search engines are becoming a lot more attuned to that. So I'd be careful around it. It helps to an extent, but I think more important to focus on your location within it, because that's much more important to Google, that you're coming up in specific location searches rather than repeating the same product name over and over again.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Should they show all products on their site or just major items?
Sorry, say that again, please.
Should they show all products on their site or just major items? So like just kind of key items, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's really up to you. Obviously, if you're doing this manually yourself and you're trying to get all of your products up there manually, I would suggest doing it for a specific number of items, mainly because it takes an awful lot of time and effort otherwise to get every single product uploaded one by one. And that's kind of the beauty of Pointy for us, is that we do all that for you, that you can have 100 products on your Pointy page, or you can have 10,000 on there. Because the way I see it, it is, in theory, it is better to have more products up there. The more products you have up there, the more chances that you have to be found in local search results. But obviously this isn't feasible all the time. If you're having to continuously and constantly update that yourself, then that can kind of be a difficult one for a lot of retailers. So in that case, I'd suggest going for maybe your most popular products, or for niche products that you think that people will be searching for an awful lot. But if it's not at all possible, I would suggest getting as many products up there as possible, because you really just don't know. We see it in here all the time in Pointy, the crazy things that people search for every day. And a lot of our retailers really can't believe it when they see what their most searched for products are online, because a lot of the time it doesn't actually, it doesn't really match up with their most sold product. So for a lot of them, just because a product is sold a lot for them, it doesn't necessarily mean that people are searching for it. It's the niche and harder to find products that people are searching for a lot of the time.
Good, and that's actually a good segue into our next two questions, which I'll kind of combine them. So what if our retail products are kind of arts or creative projects with no barcodes? Kind of any suggestions for how you...
Yeah, so unfortunately, we don't work with products that don't have UPC barcode numbers. So in that case, it seems like you're going to have to do a little bit of work yourself, which is really unfortunate. But in that case, I would suggest, first of all, making sure that if you're taking images of your products to upload them onto your own website, that they're really clear and they're really visible, and that they're optimized to do well in a local search. So by this, I just mean making sure on your website that your location is in there, and that all of your contact details and opening hours are in there as well. So it doesn't have to be really fancy. Like, a basic website is always better. For everybody, for navigation and for everything. Obviously as well, in terms of whatever way you decide to display your products online, if you're going for a website, I would strongly recommend that you have it created in a way that it's mobile friendly. You know, more and more people are using their smartphones all the time, so I think it's really important to make sure that your website is mobile friendly for this reason as well.
Great. Who conducted the Google conversion study, and what year was it conducted?
Now, off the top of my head, I believe that the Google conversion study was 2016, so last year. It was conducted by Google, that's all I know. If you go on to Think with Google, it's called, they have a number of really interesting studies on there that you can go back and read over. So that stat, I believe, was taken from their study, which is called Micro Moments. There's actually a lot of like fantastic information on Think with Google that you can sign up to as well, or you can just browse through it, and you can see a lot of the kind of current retail landscape and get a lot of really helpful hints and tips of how you can progress as a brick and mortar store as well.
Great. I think this was kind of answered previously, but I'll ask it anyway. Should services be showcased visually as well, like custom, I'm assuming for like a jeweler, like custom fittings or other things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we recommend advertising all of that, all of your services through your website or through your Facebook page. The more information that you have, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, with Pointy, we obviously don't show services. But what we do recommend retailers to do is put that into their About section on their Pointy page. So in the left-hand corner of the Pointy page, there is a section where they can talk a little bit about their store, about when it was set up, any extra information that they want to give. So in there, if they do provide services, we always recommend they list them, because that will help with your ranking for that specific search if somebody does one on Google as well.
Great, and then this is somewhat vague, but what are typical blog content subjects?
It really depends on the vertical that you're in. So obviously it depends what kind of store that you have. I would really cater to your audience and to what you think that they would enjoy. So for argument's sake, if you were a pet store retailer, I would suggest maybe just doing some really informational posts on, a new product that you have in stock, or a service, a dog service that you're providing, maybe if you're doing daycare or something like that. So it's a little bit vague. It really depends on the vertical that you're trying to target. But I think people just want information generally. They want to see reviews. They want to get more information about their store. Also, another thing is, talk to people about, talk to customers about what's happening in your store. If you opened up a new store, talk them through that journey. They love hearing things like that and getting a really personal feel as well within the store as well.
Great. That was, I guess, Caroline, one question that I had that I kind of thought of was, do you guys have like a kind of inventory tracking? So like if you have a product listed and say you have 15 of them, but all of them are now sold, like does that kind of manually update, or is that something that the retailer would have to kind of manage?
We do have a stock estimation tool. It's an estimate, and it's based on an algorithm that we've created. So the way that I usually describe it is, for argument's sake, if you're a convenience store and you sell milk every single day, you sell 15 cartons of milk over the course of 2 weeks every day, and then on the 15th day you sell no milk whatsoever, we'd start to look at those patterns of the scans and the rates of the scans, and we'd say, okay, it's looking like this product is most likely out of stock, and if we're absolutely certain, we'll mark that product as out of stock. If we're maybe about 60–70% sure, we'll mark it as stock unknown. And then if we're 100% sure that it's in stock, or 90% sure that it's in stock, then we'll mark it as in stock. So that's basically how that works.
Good. I'll give folks kind of one more, maybe another minute to type in any last questions. With that, Caroline, I don't know if you have any other kind of closing comments or remarks you wanna make.
I mean, I think that's everything from me. Obviously, if people do have questions, you can contact me, Caroline@pointy.com, or alternatively, just visit our website at pointy.com if retailers are interested in learning more, or if there's obviously Main Street organizations who are listening to this. If they just want to get a little bit more information for the Main Street stores within their organization, please feel free to get in touch or fill out our contact form on our website. And we do have an FAQ section on there as well. So if you have more questions, you might be able to find the answer in there, but always feel free to reach out as well.
Fantastic. And I don't see any last questions coming in. So Caroline, thank you again so much for doing this. I think it was very helpful, especially as we hit our holiday season here. So hope everyone has a great day, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.